Okay, so welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast. This is episode 19. I'm Andy Lehman from freedomskillsacademy.com, and I am with...
Hello, John Banks, sideincomman.com.
So, John, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, good. Getting a bit... It's interesting because I was listening to one of our old podcasts today on the way home, and it just come up on one of my playlists, and it was episode 4, and we were just saying it was so hot, and there was like a heat wave in the UK, and it was like 37 degrees, but I just got back from dropping the kids off at gym, and it was absolutely freezing out there now. So how must have been quite a while ago.
It's not nice. I saw snow in the... we had a bit of rain the other day, and it was a mixture of sort of sleet and snow, and it's been very grey outside for the last
Still,
few
I've got
days.
my Christmas decorations up. I've got my Christmas lights in the office. I don't know if anyone, for those on the YouTube, will be able to see my...
Yep, can see
about
those.
That's about all you get.
Yeah, we got our tree up, so started all the decorations downstairs. Whether I'll do any here in the office, I don't know.
No.
Just have to excuse me, I let the cat in. So, okay, yeah, so what was we going to discuss today then, John?
So tonight's episode is all about tools that you can use for when you're working with, like in collaboration with somebody, like if you've got a business partner or if you've got a, someone you're working on, even if it's just working on a one-off project with, even if like long-term projects, short-term projects, that sort of thing. So we're going to be talking about the tools that you can use in that sense. Although we should probably give a little bit of a backstory about ourselves. So because we didn't actually meet physically, did we? First off, I mean, me and you, we met sort of via the sort of blogging sort of space, really, wasn't it? And then, I can't remember when. That must have been about 10 years ago or something. I don't know,
It'll
like
be
that.
somewhere around 2011, 2012. Yeah.
So we met via blogging because we used to comment on each other's blogs and write and do this, that, and the other. And then, obviously, we formed a business together and worked on various other things throughout the last few years. So, and obviously throughout that time, obviously we've met up since then, and we've had meetings together, and we've been we've met each other's families and this, that, and the other. But initially the whole thing was, it was all sort of created out of the online space, wasn't it? I mean, it's a thing that was, we sort of met each other through a similar interest, a similar style of blog, a similar style of writing, and similar sort of and ambitions, I guess, and that's where it sort of took off. And then from there, when we worked on stuff together, we sort of found and developed and got involved in these sort of tools that you can use to sort of help each other along.
Yeah, because I mean, when we first got to know each other, we were relatively near each other. I mean, we were probably still about an hour and a half drive away, possibly. But now I'm back up in Lincolnshire, and you're back down basically on the south coast. And so there's got to be about 3 hour distance, 3 hour drive, probably 4 hour drive between the two of us. So it's not like we can just sort of jump in the car and pop and see each other and talk about certain jobs and aspects. So the tools that we've been using a lot are, well, to be fair, they are. It's incredible, really, because yes, we can Zoom chat and we can talk, but we can work on documents at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and it's because we've been working on a few contracts just recently, and it's nice to know, instead of having to send a message, are you doing this? I'm doing that. Are you doing this? You can set up a spreadsheet that people can access from anywhere in the world, and you can see, and you can both communicate within that spreadsheet. I mean, it's just, it's just one of the tools that we use, which is Google Sheets, which is just, it's fantastic. It's a great place to put in ideas in, and you put your idea in there, assign yourself that you're going to write it. Then when you pop in, you can see what I'm going to be doing over the next week.
Yeah.
And also you can look and think, oh, well, I was going to do that. I'll do something else instead. So you're not both stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, great, isn't it? Yeah, so that's Google Sheets, which is part of the sort of Google Drive, Google Docs package. Basically, it's the same as Excel for anyone that's familiar with Excel. So the Microsoft Excel, which is, you know, you have to pay a premium for that. Google Sheets, you don't. And for the likes of what we're talking about now, you know, just simple task assignments and just keeping on track of what each other's working on, it works great. You don't have to make this into a really complex, you know, advanced spreadsheet or anything like that. You know, what Andy and I are talking about is if, you know, for example, when we're working on a project, which, you know, we happen to be working on something at the moment, we know exactly what that person's working on, what stage that particular job is at, and, you know, when it's completed. So we could literally not speak to each other all week, you know, just log into that sheet and we would still know exactly what that person's working on, how much of it is done, and, you know, the sort of current status of it. So it's really great like that. And like Andy said, you can actually see when you're both on there at the same time, which happens every now and again, you can sort of see each other editing it and, oh, that one's done. And, you know, like we just put a drop down, don't we, for completed or non-completed and,
Yeah.
you know, in progress and that sort of thing. So that's a tool that, you know, I highly recommend. If anyone's working with, you know, anyone else, then you definitely want to check that one out.
Like you say, though, with Google Docs, it's Google Docs, because you get a Gmail account, so you get access to Google Drive with all these tools,
Yeah,
which are free, completely free, unless,
yeah,
of course, you use up a lot of memory, but even then, it's still quite cheap. But you're looking at, you can access them from anywhere in the world. They sync with your mobile phone, your tablet, and your laptop. They are cloud-based, so basically I could actually now jump on a plane, fly off to the other side of the world, leave everything here. As long as I can remember my password and my details, I can log into my Gmail account
yeah, yeah,
and access these tools. But they're all free. And it is just, yeah, I mean, with the Google Sheets, we've used them regularly for many different things. I mean, like you say, planning out projects and assigning posts to each other on numerous projects, even from like the start. We've started off with a list of items, tasks that needed to be done, and we've had a meeting like this using Google Zoom. Google Zoom, using Zoom and or Google Hangouts,
yeah,
discussing which jobs we want to do. We assigned each other with them, and then we've got them to reference and work on. And as you say, we go in there and we tick the box off, drop down. You know, we say completed or it's in progress,
mm,
and we all know where we are. And there's another important part about these kind of tools, which we were going to talk about, and that is the accountability that comes with it.
that's right. Yeah,
Because if you've written, say, 5 articles, and I go in there and look and see you've written 5 articles and I haven't done mine, then I think it's time I start
yeah,
to pull my finger out. I got to, you sort of you bounce
yeah,
off each other. I feel bad for letting you down for not pulling my weight, and then I get back into it. And it's always a constant reminder and motivator.
yeah,
Whereas if you was working for yourself and you had your spreadsheet and you think, I haven't got 5 articles done this week, you'll just look and go, oh, never mind, I'll do it next week. But
yeah,
when you've got somebody else who can visually see that you haven't delivered your content, your tasks, your responsibilities, you can look and you can think, you know that they're at the other end of the country going, I think
yeah.
you need a bit of a slap. So
I think that's a massively important part of it. I really do. And I mean that, and in some ways, we should just mention what we're doing now. I mean, this is Zoom. This is another. I mean, it's a new product essentially in the grand scheme of things. The way that the world at the moment. I mean, share prices in Zoom shot through the roof, didn't they? But you know, prior to this, we used to use Google Hangouts. Again, another Google product. It's totally free, exactly the same. It allows us to do this kind of face-to-face sort of chat, if you like. And you know, I can screen share to you now, can't I? I could say, well, have a look at this while I'm
yeah,
working. I could show you the exact website in its current form. I could show you the plugins. I could show you everything, you know, show you how to do something, or you could show me how to do something. We could share our screens. And that's another sort of great thing. But yeah, like, I think, yeah, I want to sort of, you know, reiterate that point as well, you know, that you definitely feel more accountable when you're doing this and you're working on something together if you can see the progress. And like you mentioned then in the Google Drive, in the Google Sheets, when you go in there and you think, oh, blimey. Because we used to sort of go a little bit of another level up, didn't we? We'd actually put dates. We'd actually sort of put target dates by stuff. And that it would sort of spur you on. We don't bother with that so much anymore because I think because we do this weekly podcast as well, and then after this, after we go off air, we hang around and have a chat again about current status. We're kind of keeping in touch that way now, I think. But yeah, prior to that, I mean, you can do it that way if you want. You can assign dates and stuff like that, and really push it.
That was really important when we were starting something new, like a new project. If he was doing a new website, we'd have dates for completion of specific tasks because the next task, was reliant on that task being finished, the previous one being finished. With the current task that we're working on now, we kind of know that we've got to get X amount done by one date.
Yeah.
And so we're just working on that. And then once that's done, it's a case of whether we're going to do it again for another month or not. But with, like you say, for when it's something brand new or some new project that you're trying to work on, having defined times to get them tasks done is very important because if you don't, it basically slows the whole progress of the whole project down, really.
So I think another one that I want to talk about, just sort of go over, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, and there's multiple options here. And that is, again, like you mentioned just now, cloud storage. Now, the two big ones obviously are Dropbox and you've got Google Drive. Now, obviously, I'm aware there's loads more, but those two are kind of the two main ones. I mean, I've got accounts with both. But so, for example, we use Google Drive and you can share folders within that to other people, can't you? Like what we do. So, for example, the process of this very podcast, what we do now is we're recording it now. After this, you'll get because you're recording at your end. So you'll get the recording. You then will upload that into Google Drive. I'll then download it at my end because it's like, I've also, as soon as you've uploaded it, I've got access to it. So I'll download the recording. I'll chop it up and do the editing here for the video. I'll then upload it back up to you. You'll chop it up and do the editing for the audio. And then you upload it to the podcast. I upload it to YouTube. And there you go. It's done. We wouldn't be able to do that without these tools. Do you know what I mean?
If you think about it, say 20 years ago, if I was to do something like this, I'd have had to stick it on a DVD.
Yeah.
Stick it in an envelope, pop it into the post.
USB drive,
it'll get shipped sort of 300 miles away. You'd work on it and send it back. So it could be like a whole week or, basically what I do now is once I stop recording, it'll download, then I'll upload it to Google Drive. It does it itself. I just basically click it and off it goes. Yeah. And it's at the other end of the country, within sort of an hour. You can start downloading it. And it's because it's just mad, isn't it? Our technology has changed over the years. But I mean, it's to our benefit. I mean, it is. Yeah, I often stand and think, we're at that age. We're in a golden period or a golden position because we have been there. Especially me, because I'm a bit older than you. I was 47 this week. So we are at that age where we remember pre-internet, pre-mobile. So, but I remember before the mobile phones, but even then, when they first came out, they were bricks. So we can remember that, and we can actually see how beneficial it really is. I think a lot of the youngsters have just kind of got so used to it. It's nothing new. But I still sometimes sit there and I just think, I've just recorded this video. I've now just stuck it up somewhere in the cloud, and you're accessing it, and I ain't had to stick it into an envelope. It's just mad.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, so that's some really good tools. So the whole Google suite, really useful. Google Docs, Google Sheets. Google Docs is essentially like Word, but again, you can both work on a sheet. We used to use that. We put all our jot ideas down. We used to use them as sort of like a dumping file.
So we still use them, don't we, for ideas,
and bits and bobs,
headlines.
Yeah, but another one I wanted to talk about ideas, which is really useful, which is often overlooked because people don't sort of use it for that, but we did, which is like Facebook. I mean, we set up a private Facebook group, didn't we? Or a private I don't know if it was a page, that was a group. We set up like a private Facebook group.
Yeah.
That only me and you were members of, and then we would share articles. And if we were doing project on when we were doing like the satire blogs and this, that, and the other, we would often just share articles into that. And you could almost just use it as a dumping ground, leave it for like 2 or 3 days. And then when it comes up to, your a bit of content curation that we were going to do, we could often just fall back on that. We could go back in there, see all load of stuff that we've shared. Oh, I like that one. Oh, yeah, I like that one. Then we could construct something based on, the stuff that we had shared. I don't think many people use it for that, but I mean, Facebook again had its uses for that sort of thing, didn't it?
I think we really should use that more often, because we used to get a lot of use out of that, and it was also great because it was one of those things where, we can share things through WhatsApp, through Messenger,
Yeah.
but they all get lost. But with the
Okay.
Facebook group, that it's something to go back to. But it's not just like Dropbox, which is a box of files, and you have to, you can just basically, because of the way Facebook's set up, if it's a video, you just click and you can watch it. You haven't got to open it up in another tool or something like that. And you can link to articles, and you can see the headlines, and you can tag each other in it, or you can comment and you get notifications. It was very, very useful for that. And we haven't used it a lot recently, mainly because of the projects that we're on hasn't really had the call for it. But it has been, it was very, very useful in many ways. I actually do like Facebook groups, private Facebook groups for that.
I think
we've had a couple, haven't we?
Maybe we could, we'll chat about that after this. Maybe I think there certainly is something that we're working on which would have a use for that. But anyway, okay. So again, all three these stuff, with the exception of Dropbox and Google Drive. But Google Drive, I think, is $1. I think a couple of pound in it for the first level for like 200. I'm not going to say the amount, but it is storage for very, very little, isn't it?
Yeah, it's free to start with until you've used so much of, and then it's like a couple of quid a month.
A couple of quid, yeah.
For the and then you can go up to more expensive, but then that works out something like £4 a month. Yeah. If you need quite a lot of space.
As long as you kind of, it's like what we do with this is once these podcasts are up or are live on the podcast and live on YouTube, we'll just delete the raw files. We don't need them anymore because they're there anyway. They're stored elsewhere anyway now.
Google Drive has now decided to they're going to clean the recycling bin every 30 days, which is handy because I went through and cleared loads and loads of stuff, deleted loads of stuff, and kept thinking I couldn't figure out why my memory was still not going down. Yeah. It's because it was still in their recycle bin, so it's classed as taking up the memory.
When you swipe, it just archives it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you need to really get rid of it.
Do it on your phone, yeah.
Yeah, but going back to sort of Facebook groups, there's another tool I've been using just recently with some friends over in sort of Bangladesh, and that's an app on your mobile phone and a website called Slack. Yeah, and that's a tool which is kind of similar like to Facebook groups. But it is a website, but within it you can have conversations with different people. So you can have like a thread which 5 people are in, then you can have a private conversation with each of those people. And within them you can upload files, you can share links and videos, just as you can like Facebook, social media. And currently I'm using a free version. I don't know if there is a paid version, but again, that's on your phone, and you get you can set up a sort of a board. So then you can invite people to be part of it. And it's another great way of sharing information and resources with people on the other side of the world. Like I say, I've got some friends over in Bangladesh, and we work through it. I send them links and vice versa, and chat to each other. And again, that's a standalone thing, which is great. It's called Slack.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Another couple I'd just like to mention just before we sort of finish off for the evening. Number one is called Kanban Flow.
Yeah.
Which is basically action tracking. You really can get into detail on this. You can start off with your to-do list, then you move it out to jobs for today, jobs for next week. It can get a bit overcomplicated, but if you simplify it, we did sort of trial it. It wasn't for us, but it can be really good. You can break down So like if you just had like build website, within that you can assign like say 10 different sub actions, like build homepage, build about page, build, and then within that you can put actions off that. It can get quite complex, but it is good. So that might be useful for others.
I think that's perfect if you're like a team leader
Big
and
teams.
you're setting up for several teams, because
Yeah.
like you said, it's not so much complicated, but it can take quite a bit of work if you're faffing around trying to do it yourself, because there's so much you can do with it.
You always need someone that just runs it. Yeah.
But yeah, basically, because then you can just go in, check, see what you need to do, and then you can click off, progress. What the progress is completed, and then leave it to someone else who can come in and have a look and set up next stages. Because it was a very good tool. I must admit, it was a good tool, but it was sometimes it was a fair bit of work just keeping on top of it.
Yeah, we were using it a long time ago. I'm pretty certain it would have been evolved since then. I remember when we used it, it wasn't very mobile friendly or anything like that. It was very much desktop based, but I'm sure it's changed a lot. So that's called Kanban Flow. Another one very similar is called Trello, which again is like a sort of weekly team action sort of tracker. But I think just to sort of wrap up, because we're getting sort of towards the end, but I think there's enough there, and I think I just want to my closing thoughts on the whole thing would be, again, like a lot of things, don't overcomplicate it. Don't think because there are 15,000 tools you got to use them all. You'll probably find that you only really use one or two. I think we only really use Google now, don't we? Really, the Google suite, which is basically Google Docs and Google Sheets, and obviously we chat on Zoom. You can get a bit overwhelmed, and you can end up like everything, like building a website. You don't need 30 plugins. You might find that it's much better if you just have 5, and I think that's the same with this sort of thing. But really important. I definitely think it holds accountability, and I mean, I wouldn't know really how we would do it without them now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the accountability is probably the biggest part. I mean, going back to Slack, the only reason why I use Slack with the team in Bangladesh is because that's what they chose. Personally, it's just another, like you said, don't use too many tools. If I end up with another team and they wanted me to use something else, I'd be like, well, I'm starting to get too much to try and remember and work with, because I have to open that up. It's nice with the Google Sheets is to format everything that you want, lay everything out that you've got to do. Just have that sheet open, and then I can just sort of, do what I need to do. Slack's really good because you can, like I say, you can message and do stuff which you can't do necessarily in Google Sheets. But again, like you say, try and stick with one tool that that is going to do everything that you need it to do, and kind of stick with that and don't overcomplicate it. And sometimes they throw so many uses and tools in there that you never actually really, you never use them.
No,
you just basically probably use the one or two main aspects of that tool. But going back for me, I think the main thing, the great thing about these is that, because unlike Microsoft Word, when you write an article and you have to send it to someone via email and faff around with the Google Docs, with Google Sheets, you can just send a link, or you just invite people and they can participate with you wherever they are in the world. And like I say, going back to the accountability, when you've got a list of jobs to do and you can see that what each other's doing, and if people are delivering on it kind of really helps to motivate you, keep you on track.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's well, that's, I mean, I'll probably say that's enough, isn't it, really, for tonight? I think that's a good enough way to end it there. So like we've mentioned there, several tools. Hope you get some use out of these. Check them out. Don't overcomplicate it. Start off maybe just using one, maybe one or two, and then sort of go from there. You'll probably find you only really need that. But yeah, like you say, another quick, just before I wanted to go, what we just talked about accountability. One final point I'd make is start to develop a sort of pattern and a system to the way you're doing it if you're working together. See, for Andy and I, it's Wednesday night podcast. That's what we do. So we shoot it on the Wednesday, and then we'll chop it and edit it and hopefully have it up on the Friday. So that's almost embedded in our week now. and it definitely helps once you start to get into a routine. Things definitely start to work better. Okay, so thanks very much for listening. My name's been John Banks over at signingcommand.com. I'll try and put the links to these tools and things like that in the under the description on the YouTube video anyway.
Yep.
And I've been with.
I'm Andy Lehman from freedomskillsacademy.com, and just want to say thank you very much again for listening. We missed last week because of being busy on a project, but all being well, we should hopefully be back again next week, if not a week after. So take care and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks very much.